Welcome to Life Alchemized, where science meets inner transformation. I'm your host, Natasha, a leadership coach and psychologist. Today, we're talking about walking right into the line of fire. We're talking about arguing. We all know the everyday friction of a heated disagreement. It starts small, a misunderstood text, a critique on how a task was handled, or a fundamental difference in opinion during a meeting. And then, in a matter of seconds, the temperature spikes, the tone shifts, your jaw tightens, your blood begins to boil, and a sharp defensive armor snaps into place. The friction here isn't just that we disagree with someone. Conflict is natural. The real friction is the sudden, overwhelming compulsion to win. In the heat of an argument, the objective shifts away from finding a solution or understanding the other person. Instead, it becomes an obsessive exercise in being right. We interrupt, we bring up old receipts from 3 months ago, we weaponize sarcasm, or we completely shut down and withdraw behind a wall of silence. We treat the person across from us, whether it's a partner, a colleague, or a friend, as an adversary that must be defeated. And yet, even if we win the argument, we walk away with a hollow, bitter taste in our mouths, feeling more isolated and disconnected than before the first word was spoken. To understand why arguments deteriorate so quickly, we have to look at what happens to our neurology when our core perspectives are challenged. Neuropsychologists have discovered a fascinating and frustrating quirk in human biology. The brain protects our deeply held beliefs, values, and ego structures with the exact same mechanisms it uses to protect our physical bodies. When someone strongly contradicts your point of view or criticizes your character, your brain does not process it as a simple exchange of data, it processes it as an actual physical assault. The moment a disagreement gets personal, your amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm system, triggers a massive release of adrenaline and cortisol. And this phenomenon is known as emotional flooding. When you're emotionally flooded, your heart rate climbs above 100 beats per minute, and a physiological gate closes in your brain. The blood flow is actively redirected away from your prefrontal cortex, the center for nuance, empathy, and logic, and sent straight to your primitive survival brain and your large muscles. Psychologically, this means you lose the cognitive capacity to see the other person's perspective. You literally cannot hear them. Your working memory shrinks, your perception narrows into tunnel vision, and you fall into a state of confirmation bias on steroids. Your brain begins scanning the environment strictly for data that proves that you are right and the other person is wrong. Practically speaking, when you're in this state of sympathetic activation, you are no longer two rational human beings trying to solve a problem. You're two nervous systems in a primal fight for survival. This is why trying to resolve an argument while you are flooded is biologically impossible. You're trying to operate a complex intellectual apparatus using a brain that has been structurally downshifted into a club. When we realize that our defensiveness is just biology running an old script, we can step out of the arena and into the laboratory. And this is where we apply the alchemical state of conjunction. In the ancient text, the conjunction is often described as the chemical wedding or the union of opposites, famously illustrated by the integration of the sun and the moon, the masculine and the feminine, the fixed and the volatile. The alchemists understood that you cannot create the philosopher's stone by annihilating one element to let the other rule. If the fire burns the water away entirely, the work fails. If the water drowns the fire, the work stops. Transformation requires that both opposing, seemingly hostile forces are held together inside the exact same vessel. They must interact, challenge, and break each other down until their individual egos dissolve, giving birth to a third, entirely new substance that holds the strengths of both. In alchemy, conflict is not a destructive mistake, It is the friction required to synthesize a higher truth. When you apply this to an argument, your entire paradigm shifts. An argument is no longer a war to be won by destroying the other side's point of view. It's an alchemical conjunction. The person across from you is not an enemy trying to erase your reality. They are a necessary opposing force inside your crucible. The tension between your two differing perspectives is the exact energy needed to burn away your individual blind spots and synthesize a solution that neither of you could have discovered alone. So, how do we mindfully impact the alchemical conjunction when our survival brain is screaming at us to attack? We change the goal of the container. When an argument begins to escalate, the old pattern is to double down on your position. Instead, you should practice the tool of crucible regulation. So this week, the next time you feel that familiar heat rising in your chest during a disagreement, I want you to make a radical, mindful pivot. Don't focus on winning, focus on the temperature of the vessel. First, pause. If you feel your heart pounding, explicitly state, I'm feeling flooded right now. I want to solve this with you, but I need 2 minutes to calm my system down. This drops you out of the survival loop and brings the prefrontal cortex back online. Second, once you are regulated, look at the other person and ask yourself, what is the third way here? Shift your posture from standing opposite them to standing with them, looking down at the problem inside the crucible. Instead of defending your position, say, here is what I am seeing, and I see that you are seeing something completely different. How do we bring these two things together? By shifting from dominance to synthesis, you honor the law of conjunction. You stop fighting for the survival of your ego, and you start participating in the evolution of your relationship. Thank you for listening to Life Alchemized. If something here resonated, let it settle before you rush forward. Awareness is already movement.